Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. And welcome, golfers, after a 1 week hiatus, we'll call it, to the Flagstick Podcast, presented, as always, by our good friends at TaylorMade Golf Canada, introducing Stealth with a carbon face for better energy transfer and more ball speed. Welcome to the carbon wood age. To learn more, visit tailormadegolf.ca. So we took a week off.
We did. Well, sort of. We took a week off of the podcast.
Exactly. We took a week off of the podcast. Taking a week off in the golf season is probably not ever going to happen, but
that would be rare.
But we took that week off of the podcast to allow you the opportunity. Welcome back into the podcast, Mr. Scott McLeod, my co-host. I, of course, am Jeff Potter, one of your hosts.
Welcome.
And you spent the week up at the Canadian Open, and literally like Monday right through till Monday.
Yeah.
You were gone and pretty much involved in just about anything that you could possibly imagine with the Canadian Open. And obviously, we're going to get into a lot of this later. But man, what was that whirlwind weekend like? Not as far more exciting a week and weekend than mine was, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean I guess I don't even know where to start, but let's just say there was not a lot of sleep. There was a lot of components for me up there, not only obviously covering the tournament itself, but some other events, people that I was traveling with up there, kind of following a story that was happening behind the scenes with somebody that was local. And again, we'll get into that a little bit, but as you probably saw on Sunday, it was pretty much mayhem.
It was nuts.
It was really wild. And, I will say that after, 3 years, obviously the last Canadian Open was at 2019. The team there did an amazing job. I can't say enough for the entire team, Brian Crawford, the tournament director, everybody at Golf Canada, RBC, Wasserman, who's involved, St. George's, Islington, everybody that was involved. It was, I thought 2019 was sort of going to be a rare commodity as far as, everything that went into that championship and how well received it was and how dynamic it was and how it really was a peak at this point for, this Canadian National Open. But man, they may have surpassed it this year. The energy was unbelievable. The golf course, the main golf course at St. George's was great. Islington is a practice facility, fantastic job there. The two respective pros, Alan Palmer at St. George's and Phil Cavanaugh down in Islington, those guys were amazing as well. And, the spectators just came out in droves. And I haven't gone back and watched the broadcast yet.
It's insane. It literally is insane.
Because I was in the middle of that,
Yeah.
And
I was looking for you, but you know what? It's like finding it. It was like looking for where's Waldo. It's where's
Waldo?
Scott?
Yeah.
Where's Scott?
Yeah.
I can't.
I mean, I will say this, when it was on the putting green and we were doing the trophy shots and I looked behind me, it was actually a little scary. It was pretty intimidating to look back there and see the throng of people that had worked their way into the fairway. And, obviously, somebody like Rory winning as well. And was the fashion, that final group with, Tony and, with JT that just, added to it as well. And, Corey Connors with the final day. I mean, just every element was there for a fantastic championship, and it certainly was.
The script was written. Like it was almost like as you watched it all unfold, the guy that everybody wanted to win, who wasn't a Canadian, won.
Right. Yeah.
Corey Connors, a Canadian, did something special on the final day on a Sunday at a Canadian Open, and maybe didn't win, but did pretty much everything that he could possibly do to win.
Yeah.
But it wasn't going to happen. So obviously we're going to get into your whole Canadian Open week, because in the back nine this week. But let's, we got an amazing show. We have just a great show. So much has happened in the last week. I mean, obviously it's been 2 weeks since we recorded a podcast, but we're really not going to go back that far. Too much has gone on just in the last week for us to discuss, and we're going to get into all of that. We got some great conversations that we're going to have this week on the front nine, a number of golf stories that have occurred. The back nine, we're obviously going to step back into your week of the RBC Canadian Open and talk about that at St. George's. Kevin Haim, back with us again this episode, provides a little insight into improving your driver swing. And that's going to be kind of cool. And we got a neat little topic that we're going to get into in Product Watch about sort of when should you buy new clubs? On the heels of maybe me finally getting a new set after many years, and when really is the right time? What clubs are more? So we're going to get into all that on the back nine, but obviously we got to jump into the front nine right off the bat. Once again, presented by Metcalfe Golf Club, a natural setting, a pleasant challenge. Looking for fun golf at a great rate. Save 15% when you prepay. Visit metcalfegolf.com to book and to buy those prepaid passes. So, okay, Scott, let's dive right into the front nine. Let's go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Let's look at Monday.
Sure.
Obviously you went up to the RBC, but on Monday, Flagstick Joe at Flagstick Joe.
No, this was this Monday. That was yesterday, not the previous Monday.
Yes, so, sorry. I'm jumping into the most recent thing that's happened, and obviously it's not a huge tour, but the Flagstick.com PGA of Ottawa Tour plays a few events over the course of the season. The Spring Open has already passed, and that was played at Castleview about a month ago. And the Summer Open was up at Renfrew Golf Club. Great track up there. Just an amazing older layout that was redone by a good friend of ours,
Stephen Ward.
Stephen Ward. And an amazing job that he had done with all the green redesigns and green complexes that he rebuilt up there, just transformed that golf course back into something really special. And the local pros of the Ottawa PGA had an opportunity to tip it up for 18 holes in the Summer Open up there yesterday.
Yes, yesterday, Spring Open, and it was actually a familiar ending to it. You made reference there to the Spring Open. Yes, this was the Summer Open, but it looked like the Spring Open because Michel Dagenet won the main category and Graham Gunn repeated in the senior. Hard to believe. I mean,
what the heck?
These guys are obviously playing some golf, because I'm certainly not. That's for sure. I think I hit 3 balls last week, I will say. But these guys are obviously playing a lot of golf and good golf. Dagenet beat out Roger Beal of Rita View in a 1-hole playoff. Both had shot 1 under par in regulation. And then Graham won handily with a 68 3 under par at Renfrew. So some really quality golf there by those players. And, obviously, they're known quantities, Mike being the player of the year in the zone last year. So, no surprise there, but a great finish for both of them.
That's awesome. We talked about this with looking at some of the names that appear, in the Ottawa PGA and some of the guys that are winning and playing well. It's not to say that these guys are old, but they're the older guys. Like Michel, he's one of the the veterans.
Well, they're both seniors, technically. So just Mike just decided to play in the main division, and
he's playing some amazing golf and has for a very, very, very long time.
For sure.
And Rogers, Rogers a great player as well. So hats off to both of those guys for doubling up back to back. Let's see if they can. See if they can keep it going. I know there's the Pro coming up, and
I will be in that one.
You will be participating in the Pro. So you're going to trade in you look great in that caddy bib, by the way. I saw.
Oh, thank you.
Some of those posts on social media with you wearing the RBC caddy bib, and we'll leave it at that because we're going to explain why you were wearing that caddy bib a little bit later in the back nine. But it's if we go. Looking like yesterday, now we look back on Sunday, and Brooke Henderson. It's a funny thing because I swear that what I was seeing on social media and some of the comments that I was getting direct to me was, What's wrong with Brooke? Is she going to return to the form that she had? Is she ever going to win again? What's going on with Brooke? Does she still want to play? And it's like, what is wrong with you people? Like, she was not feeling the greatest. She had some issues, some health issues that she was dealing with. We don't need to know the details of what was wrong with her. That's her business and her family and her camp and whatever. Take some time off. The poor girl plays tons of golf, has tons of media commitments and sponsor commitments that she has to deal with. She's probably just burnt friggin' out. I mean, I know. I mean, you this week, you burned out?
A little tired, that's for sure. And people have to remember, I saw some people referring to, a week that a player plays or at a tournament. Those weeks are no different. They're no different. They're way different than what you and I or most other people would think of as a daily work week. These are 7 hours a day, tons and tons of commitments after the round, practice, sponsor obligations. There's so many things that go into it. So these are intense, the weeks that these players play. So, for a player to take time off, in a lot of cases, they need that time off. And obviously it was helpful for Brooke, in winning her 11th title here at the ShopRite LPGA. And it was kind of funny. Obviously, RBC Canadian Open was front and center this week. But certainly, you're out there walking in the ropes, trying to cover the event. And, I was chatting back and forth. I think I was on the 4th hole on Sunday or whatever. And, walking with Bob Weeks, and Bob, shows me over his phone. He's like, hey, yeah, Brooke's leading now. And I knew she had just tied previously or whatever. And then, we knew it was going to have to happen next. It was kind of, leave that group, run back to the media room. Obviously Brooke gets the win. There's a press conference of that's virtual or whatever. So it made for a really wild day for a lot of us that, we're covering everything in golf. And, it's good for her. There was a lot of neat components to it. One, picking up that prize, she now becomes the 29th LPGA player to go over 9 million in earnings. Interesting tidbit for the week was her first victory with left-hand low putting. She made that change over the break, had a new putter in hand, feels confident in that, and obviously that's good enough to make the difference for her. And she wins with an eagle on the first playoff hole. Great final round, and then just needed a little bit extra to finish off the title. But she's so excited. She really is. I mean, in her press conference afterwards with just a few of us media folks kind of catching up with her on Zoom, she's just got a lot of confidence now heading into the next few events. Going to be big for her. The Meyer Classic this week, which she's won a couple times, and then the KPMG Women's PGA to follow that, which again, that's a title she's won before. So she's got a lot of confidence heading into that, and that bodes well for her as we look ahead to the rest of the summer.
Well, she you could see some of that confidence building off of her finish at the US Open.
Yeah, for sure.
Because she did have a strong finish at the US Open too. So you could kind of see that her game was rounding out a little bit. She was feeling better. She was building that confidence up. Now that's not the first time that she's tried the left-hand low putting. No, but not. It is the first time she's won with it, and first time she stuck with it, obviously, for the week. But I have seen her attempt that. I mean, she's tried, some different things with her putting. A lot of people have said that that's the one part of her game that that she struggles with, is her putting and her short game a bit, particularly her putting, that's kept her from really winning a lot. But man, putting is a very tricky thing. I mean, if you're not just naturally really, really good at it, like a Brad Faxon, or Tiger was a clutch putter for a long time. Ben Crenshaw was an amazing putter. They could count on that. If you can't count on it week in and week out, if you're always thinking about it and tinkering with it, then obviously it's going to be a bit of a struggle. But maybe she's found something. Maybe it's a long-term fix that she's found, and maybe it's a short-term fix. Whatever, it's a short-term. She could short-term it for the next 6 months and win a few tournaments. So
Yeah, she's such a great ball striker, and that's what she's depended on, kind of for most of her career. But even going back to her junior days, she always, had to work a little extra hard, on her putting. And as you mentioned, she's tried left hand low before in spurts, but this is the first event where she, was left hand low the entire way, and obviously got the victory. So moves up to second in the race to the CME Globe, back into the top 10. In the world rankings, she's moved up to number 8. So look out for Brooke. Number 12 could be on the radar.
See, it's a lot like me, Scott. I've been a pea shooter off the tee for so long that I developed an amazing ability to hit my long irons, and I'm a really good long iron player. So
I can relate.
It's kind of the same thing.
I'm a crappy iron player, so I had to have a good short game. So,
there you go. See, it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? It's kind of like the same. Yeah. Brooke Henderson and my skill set, very similar.
Well, you're top 10 player in your house, I'm sure.
I don't know. There's only 4 of us here. I'm not even sure I'm in the top 4. The Cats might be better golfers than I am right now. Anyway,
you never know.
Yes. Never mind. Junior golf, the PGA GT St. Lawrence portion of the obviously the PGA GT has the Ottawa Tour and the St. Lawrence Tour. And this is down in the Kingston area. They, there were juniors tipped it up at the Amersfoort Golf Club recently, and we got some winners to talk about there.
Yeah, that's the traditional kickoff down in the St. Lawrence Tour is the event at Amersfoort. So they had the St. Lawrence Junior Invitational down there. 50 plus players showed up. Good field as always. 8 different divisions. Winners were Landon Touchette, Hunter Stevenson, Amelia McFarland, Mealy Brader, Keenan Broad, Ryan Kopp, Jacob Minkhorst, and Marley Murray. So, they're rolling along down there, and up next for the tour will be the Canada Day Classic. That's going to take place at Upper Canada on June 29th.
Nice. Now, long time event down in the Kingston area, the Kingston City Men's Championship. I remember playing in this, or trying to play in this, because I didn't make it past back then the stroke play component that would get you into the match play.
Yep.
But very well known to us is a couple of the people that were participating in this, but unfortunately, a good friend of ours, Drew Mayhew, did not prevail. Ashton McCulloch won the Kingston City Men's Championship this year with a 3-2 victory over Drew Mayhew at your home club there at Garrison.
Yeah, they moved over to Garrison. Cataraqui was having some issues with the greens early in the year, although we'll talk about that in a minute because there's another event coming up there, and they're all open there now. But Ashton finished them off. Ashton, obviously, going to school at Michigan State right now. That's the second time that he's won the title, and he's won both of those titles at Garrison, and prevented Drew from winning another title. He's a former champion as well. So good matches there. Talked to Jim Ladley, the tournament organizer, as the event was happening. Some great play there. The other semifinalists were Peter Beneteau, obviously a former Flagstick Open champion, and Daniel Abraha, who obviously has played well locally as well. So good play by the 4 of those, and great finish by Ashton to get that title.
Now, you mentioned there the greens at Cataraqui. I mean, it's no surprise or no secret within the golf community that they struggled a little bit with their greens coming back after the winter. And they've got the Ontario Women's Match Play in the Eastern Provinces coming up this weekend. Tell us a little bit to just kind of bring people up to speed as to what this event is about, and then maybe kind of a little insight as to where they're at with the condition of the golf course for that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, all the greens are open there now, so they're ready to go and hosting this Ontario Championship, which kind of became combined a few years back. The Eastern Provinces is a historic event. This is going to be the 73rd playing of the Eastern Provinces Championship, which traditionally, drew a strong group of players, had a field day on Friday, and then work its way into match play. Well, a few years ago, Golf Ontario decided to, kind of run an event concurrently so that their Ontario women's match play effectively becomes the Eastern Provinces. The two titles are available at the same time. As a result of it, it attracts a much stronger field as well. They always had a strong field for the Eastern Provinces. The aforementioned Brooke Henderson, has won it. Lots of other good players over the years. But this was nice to see. As far as now, there's an Ontario title that's being held here. Just looking through the field, not the biggest field, but it is strong. Just having a look for those that are involved as far as the match play portion, they'll have a fair number of players out for the field day for sure. But if I dug through the match play players, the ones that are trying to get their way through and get into those matches, Team Ontario players, there's many college players in there. A former USGA senior champion, Judith Carinis, from up in Toronto area, Thornhill. So it should be a good competition this weekend. I'm hoping to get out there and catch some of that on Sunday as well.
Cool. Now, we recently opened the registration for our new event to be held in September 10th, 11th at the Brockville Country Club, the Flagstick 2-Ball Championship, which is a combined team Stableford scoring event. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be your typical flagstick. Anybody that's ever played in a flagstick event, expect what you normally would expect from a flagstick event. Everything is going to be top notch. Everything's going to be done, to the max, the best that we can possibly do it. The experience is going to be amazing. Course is going to be awesome. It's a perfect golf course for this type of event because it's a challenging course, but it does encourage the scoring system that we're using encourages scoring, and the golf course is going to be set up to encourage scoring. So birdies and eagles and lots of pars, and certainly because of the golf course there's going to be some others, but because of the scoring system the others are minimized. So we want you to make sure you head over to flagstick.com and click on the Flagstick 2-Ball under the events tab and register, because registrations are starting now to come in fast and furious, and there's only limited spots. I think we're only allowing 50 teams of 2. So don't wait till the last minute in August and think you're going to get in, because I guarantee as this gets a little bit closer to the date, even within the next 30 days, there's going to start to be a waiting list, and you don't want to miss. So I want to make sure. But that said, there's another event at Brockville coming up before that. That's the Brockville Senior Men's Invitational, and there's still some spots open there. The event is on July the 15th. The July 7th is the entry deadline. So make sure that you get over to the Brockville Country Club's website and register, or call the pro shop and register for that. Don't miss out on an opportunity to get out and play BCC this summer. Now, lastly, Scott.
Yes.
Lastly, the Royal Ottawa.
Yes.
Just recently opened their new short game practice area. Now, we obviously have our good friend Derek McDonald has been the head director of teaching at Royal Ottawa for the last couple of years, and this is awesome. He's really excited about this, and you've got some details just to kind of share with our audience as to what this new short game practice area is all about.
Yeah, this has been in development for a couple of years now. They originally had hoped to open it last year, but just took some extra work to get it done. And they obviously want to make it a world-class standard. Neil Haworth, who did a lot of the redesign work recently at Royal Ottawa, designed their new practice facility that opened a couple of years ago, but also did the short game facility here, has done some world-class short game facilities around the world at, TPC Kuala Lumpur and lots of different places. And it's a pretty elaborate practice area with target greens, pitching green, bunker green, chipping green. The cool part with the chipping green is that they've got different angles of approaches into the greens that replicate various surfaces out on the golf course. So what players will see, or members and their guests will see out on the golf course, they'll also see in the short game area, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. So
they can actually hit the same shots that they might see out on the golf course. And again, very elaborate as far as what's there. Just a cool spot if you're able to be a guest or, fortunate to be a member there, to go and be able to hit a lot of these shots that replicate what's out there. Arguably one of the best practice areas, kind of in the region. It's been neat to see. I mean, obviously Rideau redid their practice area recently. Ottawa Hunt, some of these clubs have been redoing the practice areas.
Rivermead did theirs a while back too.
Yeah. So just recognizing that, there are a lot of people that spend a lot of time there, not only just for their own practice, but getting instruction and things as well. Big investment for Royal Ottawa, who also hosted the Faraday event last week as well, while I was away. So yeah, congratulations to them in getting that practice facility open.
All right, now before we jump off the front nine, make the turn. There's 6 Canadians that are going to be participating in this week's U.S. Open, and which is exciting. Anytime we like to watch golf. I mean,
Sure.
I'm glad that there's Canadians in the field. It's exciting to see Canadians in the field. It's exciting to see them doing well, because obviously we are Canadian and we root for our own. I'm just looking forward to the U.S. Open myself. I love the U.S. Open and I love the Open Championship, probably my 2 favorites. Maybe it's because carnage can occur very quickly at these two, less so at the Masters and the PGA Championship. And, but the 6 Canadians are
Corey Connors, Mackenzie Hughes, Nick Taylor, Adam Hadwin, Roger Sloan, and Ben Silverman. So that's your 6. And, what's neat to see there is obviously, and we'll get into it a little bit in the Canadian Open wrap up, but Connors is playing well. Hughes is playing well. Taylor is playing well. Managed to talk to him a fair bit last week. Just, good to see they're in form and ready to take on the Country Club at Brookline, which is going to be a fantastic venue where there's some Canadian connection as well. You'll hear a lot this week about Francis Ouimet's historic win there, the improbable win in 1913. As I tweeted yesterday, most people don't realize that Francis Ouimet's father, Arthur, was from the Montreal region of Quebec. So there is a little bit of a Canadian tie in there. So who knows? It might provide a little extra mojo this week at the Country Club, but something to watch for sure. And hopefully we see those 6 Canadians in the mix come Sunday.
Cool. All right. Well, we got to get out, take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to head out to the back nine. We're going to do a little neat little product watch segment. Kevin Hames is going to help us out with our driver swing. And we've got some great discussion coming up about the RBC Canadian Open and your week that was, as it were. So stick with us. We're going to be right back after this. Okay, I'll send you a new list.
Yep.
Over the past 40 years, you've inspired us to make a lot of great drivers. All great, but all eventually reach their limit. But while we were making all these drivers for the present, we were also hard at work making the next generation of driver. Because where titanium ends, carbon begins.
All right, we are back and heading out to the lesson tee, where the lesson tee is brought to you by Kevin Hames Golf School. And it's always the right time to play better, whether you need private lessons, better short game, some putting help, or even a custom club fitting. Visit kevinhames.com. And remember, better golf is a lot more fun. This week, Kevin helps us out with what we think is the most important club in our bag. Maybe it's not, but the driver. Check this out.
Okay, golfers, today we're out on our lesson tee, and we're working on swing path and swing plane with a driver and a wedge. We're going to explain something really important. Jake, this is called our plane station. Tell everybody the angles of these alignment sticks and why they're like that.
Yeah, so we have 2 alignment sticks in the ground, one at a 65-degree angle to match a wedge swing, and one at more of a 55-degree angle to match a driver swing. And we're going to use it to explain the difference in the plane of our driver swing versus our wedge.
Yeah, those are approximate. You know, they have different lie angles. A wedge can be 63 to 7. A driver can be all the way up to 60, depending on the player and everything. But basically, there's a 10-degree difference. And this is where people who come to us and they say, oh, I hit my short irons great, but I can't hit a drive. maybe get into trouble, right? And what are the types of people? So describe the swing of the person who might really prefer that wedge to that driver.
Well, typically it's going to be a steeper swinger that hits their short iron and wedges better. Often that's because they're lifting up too much, or they're coming over the top in their downswing, causing that steepness in their downswing.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your slicer who unwinds from the top, and so the club comes down steeply, but also people think they'll hit better shots if they have that longer, big swing. And as soon as those elbows spread and that club moves up in the air, it's not going to swing on its proper path anymore. So let's set up. You set your wedge up to that alignment stick, and I'm about here. And then let's turn these over, Jake. So if I swing my driver over like so, and then you swing your wedge over, I hope people can see the difference in those angles, about that same 10 degrees. By the way, when you swing to the top, what we're trying to do, it's a little more complicated, but what you're basically trying to do is turn that club over on itself and point it at the golf ball, right, Jake?
Yeah, if I can do that, if I can keep the club on its proper plane throughout my golf swing, it's going to be the most simple, repeatable way to hit the golf ball.
Yeah, I love it. Most speed, most solid. So path is really important in golf. Swing plane is really important in golf. And if you always work at just taking whatever club you've got when you set it address, and as you swing, you just try to turn it over on its same angle. And then most importantly, Jake, with a proper downswing sequence, we keep that same angle into the ball. We're going to hit better shots.
Absolutely.
Always remember, 10 degrees, 64, 54, 65, 55, whatever it is, you don't want to swing your wedge on the same path as you swing your driver.
Any tip or advice that I can get anytime about how to hit my driver better, I'm all in. As I said before, it's not, in my opinion, it's not the most important club in your bag. I still think the putter might be, but if you don't put it in play, on a regular basis, your putter's only saving you bogeys and doubles and triples. It's not making you birdies and eagles and pars. So maybe there's an argument to be made that the driver actually is the most important club in your bag, but it's an opinion, right? It's an opinion.
Well, it's not the one you take the most strokes with, but it's the one that sets up your ability to gain strokes by hitting it further and putting yourself in a position to hit more greens and closer to the hole. So, but good stuff there from Kevin and Jake. Certainly a lot of people don't understand the concept of, the comparison of an iron and a driver, especially as far as the swing plane is concerned. So clear illustration there for people to look at, and, they got to work on that driver. I mean, you complain, you say, "Oh, I'm not a great driver," but
how much practice do I get?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's the issue. I mean, you don't want everybody obviously just to run to the range and, just hit drivers over and over again. And
yes,
people tend to do that randomly.
Let the big dog eat.
Yeah, but you want to actually be particular about what you're doing. So, good concept there from the boys, and certainly people should pay attention to that.
Now, the moral of the story is that these tips and these little instruction tidbits, that we call them instruction tidbits or instruction segments because Scott doesn't like the word tips.
Nope. Tips are for restaurants and given to your staff.
There you go. That's a podcast discussion all on its own.
Sure, exactly.
But the moral of the story is, no matter what any golf instructor tells you, shows you, gives you advice on, if you don't practice it, it doesn't matter. You can't watch a golf instruction video and say, "Oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to try that the next time I play." Wrong. Try it the next time you go to the driving range and work at it for a little bit. Maybe video yourself. See if you're actually doing it the way you're supposed to do it before you go taking it to the golf course and then wondering why, well, you said to do this and that, but I can't do it. I'm still not hitting it any better. I wonder why there, Sherlock.
I always got a kick out of it. My daughter Ailsa said it years ago. I think she was probably 6 or 7 at the time, and said, why do people, take one golf lesson, they expect to be really good? And at that point, she said, "And I take piano lessons every week." So, I mean, it's pretty good wisdom from a girl that was only 6 or 7 at the time, who's now 16. But it's great advice. I mean, people, you got to work at it.
Exactly. All right. We got a lot to get to. So let's dive right into our back nine discussion here, presented by Golf Sim Gurus. Work on your game all year round in the privacy of your own home. Custom golf simulator setups built to your specs to fit your budget. Visit golfsimgurus.ca to learn more. Now, we talked off the top of the podcast about your week that was, and we kind of threw a few little tidbits here and there, but didn't really give anything away. But now is the time for us to dive into this, and it's yes, it's going to be a little bit of a longer back nine. So we're sorry to the rules officials. If you're going to put us on slow play, that's fine. We'll talk as fast as we can. RBC Canadian Open wrap up, Scott. Like this was a whirlwind week for you that involved everything from meetings, media commitments, watching golf, photography, recording interviews,
pro-am,
like you name it, you did it. Concerts,
yes,
you know, family time. But you threw everything into a week, and I don't even think I threw all of that into a weekend. So let's talk about the RBC Canadian Open Scott McLeod style.
Yeah, it was a busy one for sure. I kind of lost track of how many Canadian Opens I've been at, but this is probably the busiest ones for a number of reasons. Obviously, you know, going up there to have the regular tournament coverage, as we mentioned, you know, there hasn't been an RBC Canadian Open since 2019, so going to be a little bit more intense as far as the week is concerned. Other element here that we'll talk about is the fact that, you know, we've talked on this podcast a little bit about Hayden Underhill, one of my students, a good friend of ours that you know, was unfortunately involved in the tragic University of the Southwest accident. Their golf team, where tragically they lost their coach and many of their teammates, and Dayton Price, his teammate as well. Well, Dayton and Hayden were both guests. They are the two survivors. They were the guests this week of Laurence Applebaum, CEO of Golf Canada, for a week themselves and their families up to St. George's to sort of, you know, have a nice experience, something they could look forward to. They've known about this for a little bit different for Hayden versus Dayton. Dayton actually flew in and came home on Wednesday, so it was pretty emotional. He was just there for the last bunch of days. He has been recovering since the accident, 80 plus days, and was able to fly home, like I said, on the Wednesday and able to get to the golf course. So it was amazing to see him there. Like I said, very emotional for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And, you know, I got to spend a lot of time with Hayden and his family. And that was one of my big focuses this week, in between, you know, trying to do as much coverage as I could. But to be there to support them, to do whatever I could to kind of help them out. Started out on the Monday, they got there, and, you know, Foundation Pro-Am was going on. They got to see the golf course, get them the lay of the land, start to meet people. By the end of the week, I think their heads were spinning because they were able to meet so many people from, you know, media personalities, celebrities, you know, hockey players, all the team, obviously, at all the golf courses, you know, musicians, all sorts of different people. Got a few surprises as well. Obviously, just before the tournament started on the Friday, made Hayden aware that he was not only going to be attending the tournament, but he was going to play in the Pro-Am on Wednesday, the championship Pro-Am, which was obviously a huge surprise for him. And then Laurence Applebaum sort of made it a condition that he had to bring me along as a caddy. So I don't know if that was going to be good or bad, but you know, fun to be along. So there was the draw party as well for the Pro-Am that was on Tuesday night. So that was involved as well, you know, practice rounds and some things on Tuesday, getting to see a lot of our friends and vendors up there as well. The guys from pretty much every company was there. It was a who's who of golf in Canada. It really was. So wasn't a lot of sleep involved during the week. And it really started out with that Pro-Am party was great. You know, Hayden and his family got to take pictures with the Canadian Open trophy, got to attend that. It was fantastic. And then, you know, the next morning, they got to get up or he did and get to play with Sebastian Munoz and Nick Taylor. Those were his two pros.
Nice.
And then filling out the group was Laurence Applebaum, the CEO of Golf Canada, Gordon Sinclair from the Tragically Hip, who also is a member at Cataraqui, but they had not met before. He just happened to have a rookie caddy for him. James McKenty, who's from a band called the Spades, was making his first time debut ever on a golf course,
Wow.
caddying for Gord. So that was funny because he sort of leaned over as before we went in the fence to start the back nine, because they started on what would be the back nine for them is at the 9th hole at St. George's. They just have an interesting configuration because where Islington Avenue is. And James basically leans over, and I just recognized him and so forth. And I asked, have you caddied before? And he's like, I've never been on a golf course before. So, so he's like, help me if you can. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be good. And then also filling out their group were a couple of the guys from the Overdrive show. Jeff O'Neill, former NHLer, was one of his other partners. O-Dog and Brian Hayes, took up the other half as well. So it was a pretty full group, pretty busy, just fun. I mean, pro-ams take a long time. We were out there for probably 6 hours, but Hayden played particularly well. In fact, he was hitting a driver off the first tee, where most players were not hitting driver off the first tee. A lot of people were trying to, just hit a 4-iron down there. It's only a 370-yard hole, and he's like, "Oh, forget it. I'm just going to send it." And Adam Long, who was, playing in the next group, PGA Tour player, after Hayden roasted his drive down the first hole, Adam's like, why are you not playing in this event? Because he just hit it that well. And he just had a great time, talking to the players. Nick Taylor was particularly interesting in the fact that he was one of the first players to reach out after the accident, donated $5,000 to the GoFundMe for Hayden and his family, and also money to Dayton and his family as well. So he was particularly excited to kind of meet Hayden, and that was kind of the funny dynamic of the week, was that not only was Hayden excited to meet all these different people, they were excited to meet him and them, and just to touch base and see how they were doing. And whether it was James Duthie and Graham Dillette, who spent like an hour with him, to Jake Muzzin from the Leafs spent a bunch of time with them. It was just continuous as far as who wanted to come over and say hello. Jeremy Taggart, he was on our the podcast, the T-Talk podcast, from the former drummer Our Lady Peace. He made sure to come over and say hello. The boys were just excited getting to meet everyone and having a great day. And it filled my heart as well. I mean, I was emotional the whole time during the week. I'm almost crying now. But it was just a really cool thing knowing these families had been through so much, and for them to have something to look forward to, and to go and have this experience of the week, to be there with Rory winning, and Dayton and Hayden got to sit by the green on Saturday, and they greeted a bunch of players. A lot of players came and talked to them, gave them gloves, gave them balls afterwards, right down to almost the very end. On Sunday, Jim Nance came down out of the booth, and he knew the story as a graduate of the University of Houston. He's a Texas guy, and he was familiar with it. They had mentioned on their TV broadcast that week on the tour, and he came down and had a nice discussion with them. And also Hayden did a club fitting on Friday, courtesy of the friends at Acushnet and Golf Canada. So he went up and did a full bag fitting to replace his golf clubs that unfortunately were damaged during the accident. And again, it was just a crazy week going back and forth, and that's just that side of it. With the underhills and the prices, and again, it was just it was really great to see. And I found myself standing back a lot of times, and obviously it's their show, and where they want to do some things and enjoy that week, and just watching the interaction, and watching the love of Canadians just coming up to embrace these kids. And it made for a special week. I'm choking up again.
Sorry. It's all good. I mean, it's to be expected. I mean, it's been from the time that the accident occurred to where we're at today, and as tragic as it was that there was loss of life in that accident, it's also sort of, if there's a silver lining in that somebody did survive the accident. It just happens to be some people, and an individual in particular that's very close to you, and a family that's very close to you, and that's a good thing. And then to watch them recover from that and start to get back to some level of normalcy in their lives, and me having been able to talk to Hayden at the Flagstick Open last month, and to see him hit shots, and to watch him play again after having watched him play prior to the accident, and now seeing Dayton coming home, and seeing him out and engaged in something. He's obviously a ways away from getting back to playing golf, and it certainly isn't a priority, but for someone like Dayton, it may not be a priority, but for him to see his friend and his teammate Hayden playing, it's an inspiration to him, and a motivation for him to get back to doing something that he loves to do. And that may be a ways away, but it's a light at the end of the tunnel that you want to work towards. So great on Golf Canada and Laurence, Applebaum, and everybody for doing what they did for them. I think it's outstanding. Great on the community, the golf community, and the Canadian community for embracing them and showing them some love and some support, because it helps. I mean, all of that helps, whether it was financial when it happened and it was needed, to emotional when it's needed just as much now. Just so cool to see that whole thing. So cool to see the photos that you posted on our social media, and just to be a part of that. I mean, I wish I could have been there. Obviously I couldn't, but it was great for you to have had the opportunity to spend that time with them. And so what, if it means a little overtired on a Monday or Tuesday, the following, who really gives a crap one way or the other, honestly, right?
No, exactly it. And like I said, the list was endless. The team at Golf Ontario as well, Mike Kelly, very supportive of the players, and talking to them about future exemptions and maybe some things to help them get into their tournaments. And as you said, it was inspirational both ways. I mean, in seeing where Dayton has gone and how he's progressed. Again, heartwarming as well. And the two boys to be together, these are two kids who went to that college together, freshmen at the same time, bonded very much down there as teammates. And now, their families are, tied forever. To meet Dayton's coach as well, Chris Dickinson, who I, had a lot of communication with in the last 3 months. Just overall, just stunning, and couldn't have asked for a better week for them. And that's what it really was about. And, as I said, that's away from the golf course, and a little bit on with the Pro-Am, but, outside of that, just a wild week. I mean, the cast of characters there, with the players. Obviously it wasn't the deepest field that people would hope for, but at the top end, certainly the leaderboard started to shake out by Saturday, and we knew something special was brewing. The level of the play that was there. And I think the one big thing where it sort of hit home for me was on Sunday, myself with a throng of probably 100 people inside the ropes. There was a stack of media, obviously security, all sorts of different things to kind of control things. But, I was behind the first green as Rory went to roll in his first putt, and I saw the fist bump as he just rolled that in pure, and you're like, oh boy, here we go. Something's going to be happen there. And, managed to go with those guys through about 6-7 holes, and then had to split back to the media room to cover the Brooke story. We had Grant Fraser helping us out there this week, so he was still out there doing photography for us, and then connected again with the group later on. And I just couldn't believe the energy that was out there. I mean, players said it all week. It felt like a major championship, and not only the obviously the scoring was low, and that was predicated more by the softness of the golf course from rain earlier in the week, but rough was deep, greens were fast, if not but soft, as I said. But just the environment itself, there was so much energy there, and the players all week said they really fed off that. And there's chants of Rory and Tony and JT, and I mean JT was laughing because obviously Rory tended to be the highest in volume, and he was sort of obviously he wanted to play well and didn't have the final round that he wanted, although he did play well. And just joking that obviously Rory was quite the favorite there, and Rory was super pleased. I mean, to win the title a second time. He said he's going to be back for 2023 at Oakdale, and he was just fired up, and I think expect good things from him this week. He's got 21 titles now, and
one more than somebody else.
But he's feeling it. little nugget actually was kind of funny regarding Rory was he had some issues with his spikes early in the week, and I think that was Monday, I believe, and he was searching for a spike, which obviously he's a Nike guy, but they don't have tour trailers up at the Canadian Open like they used to in the day. Has a very unique metal spike that he makes use of, and they weren't sure what to do. And they actually, the phone rang for a good friend of ours, Vinny Gomes, who used to work for Nike many years ago. Was there working for Levelware. And I hope I'm not talking out of school here, but they reached out to him, and he's like, man, I haven't worked for the company for 6 years, but he knew where he could get the spike, and they had them there the next day and ready for him, so they make use of. But kind of funny that they would have to lean back on someone that used to work for the company just for a contact to get that. And I'm sure there was lots of elements that went into Rory winning, but certainly well received. And for the tournament, I mean, that's every tournament's dream. I mean, no offense to the Alex Smalley's of the world and Wyndham Clarks or whatever, but that generally doesn't fire up the crowds or the media or tournament organizers quite as much. So to have a world-class player, a major champion like Rory win, somebody who's so personable, I'm sure that added a lot to it. Did you watch much? I mean, I haven't watched the broadcast yet. So
I'll be honest. I mean, I watched a lot of it, to be honest with you. I didn't, and I don't usually watch a lot on TV, Monday or like Thursday to Sunday.
Right.
Unless it's a major championship, but the Canadian Open to me is a major championship. I mean, it used to be considered a fifth major for a long time. I like the fact that they move it around from venue to venue, as opposed to it being, in the old days, having been at Glen Abbey all the time, as great a golf course as it is. I like it being more like a US Open or an Open Championship or a PGA where it roams around. And you get to see some of these courses like St. George's, like Ancaster, the Hamilton Country Club in Ancaster, like Oakdale coming up in 2023. That's the kind of stuff I love to see. The broadcast was insane. Like I swear it was just like any major championship. The crowds were intense, not crazy,
maybe a little too intense in some spots on Saturday and on Sunday.
The rink hole was a little bit kind of like the rink hole was sort of a slightly downplayed version of the
TPC at Scottsdale.
Obviously nothing is as crazy as that,
right?
But it was a similar sort of atmosphere. So no, the coverage was amazing. I bounced back and forth on the weekend between the ShopRite and because Thursday, Friday I didn't really watch much of the LPGA event. Brooke wasn't really there at that point, and it was
Yeah, she started the week on, I mean, the tournament was Friday through Sunday, and she started with a 67. But obviously, you know, a lot of players will shoot low rounds in the first round, and you don't know whether they're in the mix or not. So we're really, as you said, it really wasn't until Sunday that she was really
Sunday I
in the
watched a
mix.
bunch of that, and obviously I watched the Canadian Open finish, and it was exciting. I mean, it was kind of sad in a way to see JT kind of stumble a bit coming down those, you know, the last few holes, just because I think it would have been even a little bit more pressure and a little bit more interest if JT had stayed where he was, because he was only within one, I think, at that point, or I think they were tied actually, and then it was a 2-shot swing. But yeah, just amazing. And like I said off the top of the podcast there, if a Canadian wasn't going to win, I think the crowd favorite to win, you know, to repeat was Rory. He's definitely an adopted Canadian. There's no question about that.
Yes, so. You know, they asked him about citizenship and would he take it, and he said, yeah, for sure, he'd be all over that. And you know, I think they mentioned on the broadcast, you know, he used a loonie in his pocket at Ancaster. He used a toonie. He was joking about, you know, we may need a $3 coin, so he can maybe win a third one.
They can make him a custom one.
Yeah, I talked to Corey a little bit after his 62. Obviously, he did his media stuff, but you know, while some things were going on the 18th green, I was just chatting with him on the side, and you know, he was obviously pleased with his round. He sort of wished maybe he had put that together a little bit earlier in the tournament so he could have been in the mix. You know, pleased with his finish and pleased with the you know, winning the Rivermead Challenge Cup for the first time.
Yep.
You know, as the low Canadian. He said at the trophy ceremony, you know, he's looking forward to putting his name on the big trophy maybe at some point. And Rory joked, because obviously we talked about the Canadian citizenship, is that he joked maybe he should be looking forward to putting his name on the little trophy at some point if he gets Canadian citizenship. So just yeah, could not ask for two better personalities there. And like I said, you know, 19 Canadians that were there. There were 20 in the field originally. Sadly, Michael Gligic had to pull out in the first round. He pulled out after 10 holes, clearly distracted by the passing, you know, of a close friend of his, which was sad and unfortunate. A lot of people knew Ryan Corbin in the golf community. Yeah. So condolences to friends and family of him. So, you know, that sort of put a little bit of a pall on things for a few of the Canadians. But yeah, you know, it was a good showing. 6 of the Canadians did make the cut. And did show some fine form there. And, you know, we always hope that, you know, at some point, one of these guys will win it. But, you know, Corey being our top rated Canadian in the world certainly showed that he was, and for good reason, in posting that 62 on Sunday. And don't be surprised if one of these guys picks up the big trophy at some point.
Well, I hope to see it. All right. Obviously, next up is the US Open this weekend, Father's Day weekend, as always, and that's going to be a very interesting watch. We won't get into talking about it because we still got a lot to get to.
We do,
and another break ahead of us here. But obviously, with some players that participated in the recent event over in London, that are no longer members of the PGA Tour, whether by resignation or by suspension. They obviously will be playing in the US Open, and if they're already exempt or qualified. And it'll be interesting to see how the Boston crowds, which can be significantly, maybe not as boisterous as a New York crowd, but they can be a little bit harsh, and it'll be interesting to see how what once were fan favorites are no longer fan favorites or not. But it certainly will be a great event to tune in to watch, regardless of all of that shenanigan. Clearly, obviously, you notice, and those listening and watching notice, that we're not talking about what goes on over, because we really don't give a crap one way or the other. Well, we give a crap, but we don't give a crap about the event.
Yeah, it's that way. Exhibition golf at this point.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. Fun times. All right.
I will mention one thing on that. I was kind of surprised. Obviously, you know, there's tons of discussion regarding, you know, that tour or that playing of that event that was over there all week long. Hard to avoid, you know, kind of in a media room or whatever. But, you know, RNA and USGA made their stances known as far as being open championships and so forth. Surprised there was not anything from Augusta National. And part of the reason why I'm surprised there was nothing from Augusta National was Fred Ridley, the chairman of Augusta National, was at St. George's this week. He was incognito. He was staying at a friend's property at St. George's, somebody who we both know, and we're not going to say who it is or whatever, but he was there in attendance and just didn't have any official duties or whatever. Commissioner Jay Monahan was there, obviously made some statements on TV. So I was surprised that maybe Fred Ridley didn't make it, but maybe that's just a case of not wanting to show up or take more attention off the third oldest national open golf championship in the world, which is unfortunate. That's what that other exhibition tour did this week. And as Rory said, proper golf, proper championship, national championship, that's what's important.
And you know what? I mean, I guess I'm going to touch on this just a little bit, but the one thing that I'll say of all the media appearances that I've heard from the players that decided to go over and be a part of this new showcase tour, I just wish, and I think a lot of people have shared the same opinion, is whatever your opinion as a player, whatever your decision as a player is, for ignoring the obvious, just own it. For God's sake, own it. Don't try to sugarcoat this whole thing by saying it's about spending more time with the families and so on. Last I checked, Tiger Woods on average played 14 to 17 PGA Tour events. There's no obligation by these players to have to play a full schedule of every single event. They write their own schedules. They write their own, and those that are at the highest end, they have an even easier time of setting their schedules to spend time with their families. So don't tell me this is about spending time with your family. You're across the sea. You're not even in the States playing golf. If you're in the States playing golf,
a bunch of the events will be,
and that in itself is another issue altogether. Like this thing could go on and on and on and on.
Oh yeah,
but own it. You're there for the money. Bottom line, this is the only reason you would go. Is you're to ignore whatever's going on and focus on the big bucks. Whatever your reasons for needing the big bucks are, the quick payout,
whatever,
it's all on you.
But
I'm watching PGA Tour golf all day long. All right. We got to take another break.
No worries.
And then when we come back, we're going to get into this little discussion about when to buy new clubs, whether a new set, new clubs, new irons, new whatever. We're going to get into this little discussion on Product Watch, but we do got to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Introducing the all-new Spyder GT. With Pure Roll 2 to improve topspin and a fluted shaft to enhance feel. No matter how you look at it, it's stability from every angle. Only from TaylorMade.
All right, we're in the home stretch. Scott McLeod, we're in the home stretch. I know it's been a rather long, but very informative and interesting edition of the Flagstick Podcast. But we're in the home stretch, and we as always, we kind of try to mix things up a little bit. And when we talk about different segments, lesson T, product watch, you generally like to think, we're going to talk about this iPhone, and it's got this and this and this and this, but that's not really the last couple that we've done. We've kind of taken a little different spin on it, and this one's not really any different. We're going to get into a little different discussion about buying new golf clubs here on the Product Watch segment, which is brought to you by our good friends, our good buddies at Greensmere Golf and Country Club. Save 40% on all daily green fees with FlexPass for only $425 plus tax. FlexPass is going to save you some bucks. Visit greensmere.com for more details. All right. Scott McLeod,
yes,
Product Watch. When to buy new clubs. Now, this on the heels of I know you said not specifically about the fact that I did this recently.
No, but that sort of inspired it a little bit.
Yes. And it's not about brands. It's not about what clubs I bought or what clubs I got or didn't get.
Right.
I got new clubs. I got new irons. I got a new driver. I got a new fairway wood. I got a new hybrid. I got new wedges. And for the first time in a very long time of all the clubs I've ever changed, first time in a very long time, I have a new putter.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I did have the opportunity to go, I live very, very close to Metcalf Golf Club. One of our gracious sponsors here on this podcast. I'm a member there with my family, and my son and I went over, Brandon and I went over to just do some putting, some chipping and putting on the putting green, which is something we can do now,
right?
Post sort of COVID issues. And I went over and I rolled the putter for the first time, and I gotta say, really, really, really like this putter. Really like it, and it's the first new putter I've had in a long time. So
I guess that's the thing. People ask all the time, like, what do you play? And I always say the clubs that fit me. And really, that's what it comes down. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. The brand name or whatever itself is rather irrelevant. Obviously, people will look to certain brands for quality or use on tour or stuff like that. But in the end, it's about what works for you. And that's what it really comes down to. And, this was obviously inspired a little bit about, you getting new clubs in your bag. But again, the continuing discussion all the time that people have, and, this could be a big subject, and we're just going to touch on a few points here because obviously this could be very exhaustive, but, people I'll play with, and, that Pro-Am while I'm caddying the Pro-Am, and I'm looking in the bags of some people, and Gord Sinclair was kind of funny because I was looking at his bag, and he's got some older clubs in there, and he's got a putter he bought off me a million years ago at Golfer's Choice. How's that? But I'm kind of looking at that and seeing, and he's a little bit curious about new clubs, and a few other people were as well. But, the main thing they ask all the time is like, when should I upgrade? They obviously hear constant messages coming from the manufacturers and seeing ads on TV and podcasts and everything like that, kind of prompting them to get the latest and the greatest. But people wonder when should they change, or when are clubs worn out, as I put up air quotes here for those who can't see and are not watching on YouTube. But
see, that's why you should watch on YouTube too.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't see the air quotes.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing, first off, and this will be a point, and again, we'll have some talking points here, but I think the biggest thing for most people is to look at changing their equipment if they've had some swing or equipment or technique changes. So for an example, when you're dealing with, taking some lessons and you obviously swing in a certain way, golf clubs fit that. They fit that technique of what's going on. And thankfully these days, with things like drivers, for an example, we have, a greater amount of adjustability. So you don't necessarily have to get rid of the club that you've got. You can sometimes just make the necessary adjustments to match up what you're doing differently. That's a little harder to do if your technique changes with your wedges, and you all of a sudden become a little bit shallower, or use the bounce differently on the bottom of the club, or maybe you change your home golf club in a place that you play regularly. There's different conditions there. There's different requirements that are there, and clubs do play a factor in that formula of playing well. Obviously, you have to swing the clubs, but where you play can also dictate what changes in your golf bag, for gappings, for, hey, maybe I need a particular club for a particular hole. Maybe I need to carry the ball more on this golf course that I'm playing. Maybe the bunkers are different than my previous golf course. Maybe the turf is firmer or softer. I mean, a lot of things that'll happen with, a wedge, for an example, and changing things like the bounce, is that changing the bounce can encourage the same type of strike and the same results that you would see at another golf course who has different conditions. So what I mean by that is that, if a turf is firmer on one property, and you're taking shots with it, the club, how it works into the turf, you're going to get a strike point at a certain location on the club head. That will change things like trajectories, spin rates, so forth. Now, if all of a sudden you go into a softer turf and the club is working down into the turf more, you're going to be striking that golf club higher in the face. That changes the spin characteristics. But you could actually have a wedge in there that has more bounce and then replicate the exact conditions or situation that you would see on the other golf course. So these are things where you have to think of golf clubs as being tools. So you change the tools to match the job that you need to do. So that would be one thing as far as looking at. It's not just about age of the clubs or things, but looking at how the tools that you have fit your current swing, your technique, or the golf courses.
Well, wedges wear too, and I mean,
yeah,
people that play a lot
sure.
of. If you don't play a lot of golf, you probably wouldn't notice this quite as much. But those that play a lot of golf, wedges get used a lot. And if you look at your wedges, you know, some people will comment, they'll see a ball pattern in their wedge and say, hey, you know, like I'm striping it, it's in the middle of the club all the time. They think it's a
good thing.
It's like, yeah, but if you take a close look at that wedge, where you're hitting it in the same spot all the time, because wedges are the one club where we do tend to hit the ball in a similar spot on a regular basis, being that it's a shorter club. You tend not to be in at the heel or at the toe quite as much as you might with your longer irons. But you get a wear mark, and the groove can start to flatten out and get shallow, much like the tires on your car. The more you drive them, the more they wear, the less tread they have, the less grip they have. With a wedge, the less groove, the less friction. The less friction, the less spin, and the less control. So take a look at your wedges. And if you're asking yourself, do I need new wedges? Well, that will be one telltale sign, aside from the turf conditions or the course conditions that you play under. One of the telltale signs would be, are the grooves wearing? Are they still the same depth that they were when I bought them? Or have they started to wear in? Because if they started to wear in, you can get these things regrooved, yes, but you might be better off, you know, just getting new wedges and upgrading that technology. Because like even the wedges I switched, I used, I was a Cleveland 588 wedge for most of my early golf years. Then I switched and I used TaylorMade wedges for a while. I had ones with the copper face on them, and then I used Nike wedges for a while, and now I'm using different wedges again. But the technology of those wedges has changed. That for wedges anyway. Now, obviously, the other things with drivers and fairway woods and stuff, it's technology, it's comfort, it's, it's fitting. But
the wedges are, there's something that, as you mentioned, they tend to change the fastest, but it's also not noticeable. It's like watching a kid grow. You don't notice that gradually, the same shot that used to stop at 10 feet now runs out to 18 feet. And that changes your proximity to the hole of what you can do for the shots. We also don't tend to notice, unless you're on a launch monitor or something all the time, you don't tend to notice that, the golf club doesn't have that friction, that your launch starts to get a little bit higher, shots start to get a little balloonier, especially when you're hitting little pitches and shots around the green. If you start to see them run out more and launch a little bit higher, you're starting to lose friction with your wedges. And that's sort of important. And as you said, if you lose that volume of the groove volume where it can't, get rid of the moisture and the grass and stuff that's between the ball and the face, you lose the friction that's in there. So the club that you'll probably have to change the most will probably whatever one that you use within the sand, because you have to remember that that's providing a little bit of a grit factor that's there, and will tend to wear that face a little bit more. It might be the club that you also practice with the most. If you tend to hit a certain club a little bit more on the practice range, that could be a particular iron or a wedge, for an example, you'll see that kind of wear a little bit faster. But be very wary about it. Again, I know it's a subtle change, but try and get some comparisons in there. I mean, go into the pro shop and get a demo wedge and hit it compared to yours and see how the golf ball reacts. If it's markedly different, then obviously you might have to look at something and changing and getting a new wedge that's in there. So that's an important thing with that. You were mentioned as far as other clubs from a fitting perspective, irons tend to stay in the bag the longest. Again, you look at those grooves, have them checked. Lie angle changes, again, those things could change as far as what you do and how you play the game. Some of the softer heads right now, they'll tend to, the lies will change a bit, lofts will change a bit. That's not, you don't have to necessarily get a new club, to replace that. You just might need some adjustments. You don't have to throw them out that way.
Right. But fitting on those irons is important too, because they may stay in your bag the longest, but we don't get any younger. And, we do tend to slow down a little bit and be, maybe not as strong.
You change as well, right?
Yeah. So you might not need the shaft that might be in your irons at one point. It might have been a steel shaft. It might have been, a dynamic gold X100. And now you're not swinging quite as fast. If you're not swinging quite as fast, you're not going to get the performance out of that iron the way you did when you were swinging fast enough to handle an X100. Maybe you need a less stiff shaft, or maybe you need a regular flexor, a senior flexor, whatever, but you still like the irons. And there's lots of people like that. They like their irons. They don't want to change them. Well, you do have to take a look at the shaft, and it might be less expensive to change the shafts in your clubs. In some cases, it might be more expensive, but if you really like them, that's a part of the fitting process that, you can get your clubs refit. You don't necessarily have to always get fit for new clubs, but you can get them refit, and then they're going to perform for you the way you're accustomed to them performing for you. Same thing with a driver or a fairway wood, is you might just want to change something small about them to be able to still use them. Or maybe you do want to change the technology too, because it does make a difference to an extent. To a great extent for some people, the technology changes in golf equipment in the last 5 years, the last 10 years is extraordinary. So you can't just shove that to the side and think it doesn't make a difference.
No, not at all. I mean, the engineers are working hard every year to try to improve the equipment. I mean, they are incremental changes. People have to understand that they sometimes might not be noticeable in a single generation of a product, although they could be. It could be a case of all of a sudden the sound is quite different. The center of gravity location is different. I mean, again, that brings in the fitting aspect that's in there. Generally with drivers, I mean, you're going to see probably 3 to 4 generations where you'll see a massive change, something that's really, really noticeable. If you're a better player, you might see it in less than that. But again, it really comes down to early in the season, inspect your golf clubs, have a look at them, make sure there's no cracks and stuff in them, because that's one thing as well. When we're dealing with super thin material, we've talked about clubs, breaking all sorts of stuff, before, but
I couldn't have inspected that wedge. It was underneath the grip.
No. But when we're, go back and listen to the last podcast, people, if you want to find out what we're talking about there. But because it's super thin material of the titanium that's used in driver heads right now, they're prone to have occasional failures. So make sure you inspect the shafts as well. Those could play a factor in why you need to change as well. And on top of that, there still is the thing of just change for the sake of change. I mean, if you've got the budget to do it and you want to do it, there's nothing wrong with it, as long as, again, you're doing it but making sure that they still fit you properly, because as we said, dynamic lofts change, you get slower, you change the conditions that you deliver, a lot of different things that are in there. So one other thing as well, you mentioned about the putter, and you've had a putter in there for a long while. Again, you could change the golf courses that you could play at on a regular basis, and you go into a golf course with different green speeds. You might need a different loft configuration. Maybe you start to have distance control issues. You can change the kind of putter that you use to see what your output speed is and how that varies a little bit. There is a smash factor with putters, just like anything else. Maybe you need something with a softer face, a firmer face, just to match up with your tendencies as they tend to be right now. And when I say that, it's not on one putt. Don't judge everything on one putt or 2 putts or whatever. No. You want a long trend that you see happening to make a change, and you can work with a PGA professional with that. Your eyesight may change, so things like alignment issues may change as far as how you, as you hold your glasses there, how you align the putter and how you see it could change, which could lead to a different hosel configuration so that you can line up a putter head properly. a lot of different factors here that come into play that are more than just seeing the latest commercial and going in and grabbing something. So, those are just some quick points. I mean, if anybody wants to reach out over, social media, at Flagstick on Twitter or Flagstick Golf on Instagram, if you have questions about that, certainly we can try to address them. And, again, this could be an endless issue. And I'm certainly sure over the years, we'll probably, address these more and more.
No question. And one last thing with respect to getting new clubs is we talked about, new clubs, wear marks, shafts, possibly. If you do play a lot of golf, and even if you don't play a lot of golf, change your grips a little more regularly.
I thought you were going to say change your head cover, which we could get to as well. But
change your head cover. Go to flagstick.com, shameless plug, and get one of the limited edition Flagstick head covers. They're really cool, made of the PU leather head covers, really nice blue.
They're great. They're awesome.
They're really nice, and they're not overly expensive. I think we've got them up there right now at $29.95 plus shipping.
Okay.
And we'll get one out to you. We have them in stock. There's not a ton of them, so make sure you get one before they're gone.
Yep.
Get some, put them away for Christmas presents. Father's Day is coming up this weekend. I don't know that if you ordered it today that I can get it out to you that quick. I can certainly try.
Yeah.
But take a picture of it, put it in an envelope, tell Dad that it'll be there as soon as it can get there. So, but awesome. Go to flagstick.com. You can actually order. We've got online store set up now. You can order it on or buy it online, not order it, buy it online.
Right. Yeah.
Right away. Wow. That was a show and a half.
Yeah, we promised not to maybe take that big of a break, but it might happen or whatever. But there was a lot to pack in there for the week, and certainly with our Canadian Championship on, and you can expect some big ones later on, even in the summer. We didn't even talk about the CP and all the things that are going to happen with that. Spent some time with Ryan Paul a little bit, the tournament director, and got some tidbits on that. So maybe we'll leave that for the next show.
Okay.
And talk about some of the things that are
we also got a cool interview that you did with PGA of Canada president.
Yep, Gord
Percy, who we've both known for a very, 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 very long time. Great guy. Scott had a chance to sit down and do an interview with him. We have that interview, and I think we'll probably use that next week.
Yeah, sounds good.
We don't want to hang on to it too long. It's a good interview, and I think people will get a good kick out of listening to that. So we'll probably have that on the show for next week.
Yep.
But as for this week, we're done.
Yep.
We are done, and we're out. As always, we got to thank our sponsors, because without them, we can't do this podcast, because it takes money to do something this professional, and we need sponsors. So thank you, Metcalf Golf Club, Golf Sim Gurus, Greensmere Golf and Country Club, Kevin Haim Golf School, and yes, our title sponsor, presenting sponsor, TaylorMade Golf Canada. Check out the new Stealth line of golf equipment, tailormadegolf.ca, and welcome to the carbon wood age. Well, I certainly, judging from the downloads and the views and the of the podcast, I know you're enjoying it. I know you're enjoying listening to it and watching. Be sure to follow everything that we're doing Flagstick related on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Audible, and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like us, click the notification bell to make sure you never miss a single episode. And on that note with YouTube, next week's podcast, we are going to announce a contest.
Ooh.
We want to get more subscribers to our YouTube channel, and we are going to announce a subscriber contest for our YouTube channel. So you're definitely going to have to tune in next week to listen to that and subscribe to us on YouTube. Hop over to flagstick.com. Great, amazing golf content is delivered to our website every single day for you. And that's about all I got. We do appreciate you listening. And as always, we love to hear that you're tuning in. Until next week, I am Jeff Potter.
And I'm Scott McLeod.
Always remember, go for the stick.